Hey, functional friends, Bren Vermeyer here. Welcome to the Holistic Savage podcast, where we like to talk about all things related to functional health, including functional medicine, functional fitness, functional spirituality, functional psychology, and basically everything in between. And of course, you can't spell functional without fun, so we like to have a good time on this show. Now, before we get started with introducing today's honored guest, I want to remind you all that the content of this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not at all intended to be a replacement for supervised healthcare. So be sure that you're working proactively with your licensed healthcare provider to make sure that all of your healthcare and medical needs are being met effectively. Of course, if you're interested in our functional services at Metabolic Solutions, you can send us an email at info@metabolicsolutionsllc.com, and of course, visit our website, metabolicsolutionsllc.com. Also, if you love this podcast, I would really appreciate it if you share it with your family and friends. Like it, follow us, subscribe, review. It really means the world because ultimately, I believe that the greatest medicine of all is to teach people how not to need it. And the first step towards change is awareness and then education and empowerment. So that is what my platform is dedicated to. That's what this podcast is dedicated to, is helping educate and empower self-healers around the world so that they can overcome their greatest health objectives. So be sure to subscribe and leave us a positive review, and don't forget to share with your loved ones. So without further ado, let's get started with today's guest. Thank you so much for being here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, functional friends, I could not be more excited to introduce our next honored guest. So, Carrie Jones, Dr. Carrie Jones, the Dr. Carrie Jones, the queen of hormones. If you don't know her, you're missing out. You should know her. She is truly a remarkable woman and one of my absolute favorite people on this planet. So I want to tell you a little bit about my friendship with Carrie Jones, and then I will read her official bio before we get started with today's amazing episode. But Carrie is really the first person in the functional medicine industry that I befriended. I remember it was back in 2018. We had connected on social media. I was working for a company that collaborates with Precision Analytical. So I was the director of that organization, and she's the medical director for Precision Analytical. So in that way, I got to connect with her in a professional and then more kind of personal, friendly manner. So we connected on social media. We were connected through work. We became kind of social media, internet friends. And that was all leading up to a conference in fall of 2018 that we were both going to be at. And I will very humbly admit, I still to this day have, the biggest crush on Carrie Jones. And so I was so excited chatting with her on Instagram and letting her know, like, hey, Carrie, like, I get to introduce you for the upcoming conference, and I can't wait to finally meet you in person, so on and so forth. I'll share the picture of her and I at that event. We look like babies, and it's crazy to think that that was already over 3 years ago. The time really just flies. And, the funny thing is, they say that you shouldn't meet your idols. And I didn't really understand why they say that until I kind of did my rounds through the industry, and I met a lot of people that I did idolize and I did put on pedestals. And, I have to keep it honest, keep it real. I came to learn the meaning of that phrase, that you shouldn't meet your idols, because I would say, kind of 50-50. Sometimes it's really disappointing, to be honest, and to keep it real. And I say that because when it comes to Carrie Jones, she is just as amazing, if not even more amazing in real life as she seems to be through the internet. If you follow her on social media, she's a wealth of knowledge. She has amazing energy. She's so kind. She's so thoughtful. She's so sweet. She's so generous. And I can tell you, firsthand that she is just as amazing of a friend as you would think that she really is. She really does live up to her name, and that's really not the average. Usually I find people it kind of feels a little disappointing in a lot of ways when you meet some of the people, but with CarrieJones, she exceeds expectations in every way you can imagine, and she really is one of my dearest friends. I'm so glad that she was one of my first friends in the functional medicine space, because what a hell of a friend to have. You know, she'll be that person that always has your back, will always go above and beyond, will listen to you, will support you. I can't tell you, CarrieJones, she's such an amazing ambassador for the naturopathic medicine and functional medicine and holistic health space. And something that she always preaches is friends support friends. And I want to speak to that for a second. And I'm saying all of this in the introduction because I know if I said it directly to Carrie in the podcast, she might tear up a little bit, and I don't want to embarrass her too much. But, the reality is, in probably any industry, I can really only speak for my industry, the industry I have experience in. I imagine it's probably the same in every industry, though. Anytime that you mix a lot of money, you mix fame, and you mix human ego together, it's kind of a recipe for an egocentric mess, to be honest. And unfortunately, my industry has that. I kind of don't think any industry is really immune to that. I think that's just human nature when you mix human ego with money and fame of some degree. And so, unfortunately, not everybody is really very supportive. I'm being very careful with my words right now. I've had a lot of amazing people on my podcast, and there's not really a single episode that I regret. But I can't say that the support, the friendliness, the warmth, and the reciprocity was always what I think it should be. I have a lot of strong core values: honor, integrity, humility, compassion, generosity, perseverance, so on and so forth. This isn't about me, but my point being, I do believe that there is a right and a wrong. I do believe that there is a right way to forge your career and try to change the world, and I think there's the wrong way to do it. And unfortunately, especially when it comes to social media and who has the bigger platform and who's got more followers and who's more Insta famous and all this egocentric bullshit, I'll just say it, I'm getting a little heated. There's a lot of bullshit. There's a lot of people that it's smoke and mirrors. They use you as much as they can get away with. You try to support them and they don't do anything to return the favor. It's not reciprocal. And I'll just cut myself off there because I don't want to go on like a negative tangent. But this is one of many things that makes Carrie so damn exceptional and amazing. You'll hear her say it all the time. If you get close enough to her and spend enough time around her, you'll hear her say all the time, friends support friends. And I don't think that's ever been needed more in the world today. We live in very polarized times. We live in very chaotic times, very divisive times. Never more has the world needed to come back together in unity. What's the antidote to chaos and polarization and divisiveness? Unity, right? Unity and love. That is the only way forward. And I feel from the depths of my soul that Carrie really embodies that. I can't tell you how many times Carrie has, gotten up early to come listen to me lecture. Just in February of 2020, New York City, IHS, I had an early morning breakfast presentation lecture on mold at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, before the main conference really even began. And you better believe that she got up and she was there, right there in the heart of the crowd, there to support me, there to cheer me on. She attends every lecture when we're at the same event, and I certainly return the favor. So she's such an amazing ambassador for naturopathic medicine, functional medicine, holistic health, and just humanity at large. So it's such an honor to be able to call her a friend. I couldn't have more love for her. And I think I have pretty thoroughly introduced Carrie on a personal level. So now allow me to introduce Carrie officially with her official bio here. So Dr. Carrie Jones is an internationally recognized speaker, consultant, and educator on the topic of women's health and hormones. Dr. Jones graduated from the National University of Natural Medicine in Portland, Oregon, where she also completed a 2-year residency in women's health, hormones, and endocrinology. Later, she graduated from Grand Canyon University's Master of Public Health program. Recently, Dr. Jones became board certified through the American Board of Naturopathic Endocrinology. She was adjunct faculty for many years, teaching gynecology and advanced endocrinology and fertility. While in practice, Dr. Jones served as medical director for 2 large integrative clinics in Portland. She is currently the medical director for Precision Analytical Incorporated, the makers of the Dutch test. What you know about that Dutch test? What you know about rolling down in the Dutch when your brain goes, wow, man, I could have, if I actually had thought that one through, I could have really rolled with that a little bit, rolling down in the deep. Astronaut in the ocean. All right, without further ado, let's get started with today's amazing episode on your mental health and hormones with Dr. Carrie Jones. My favorite of all time, the greatest of all time. All right, here we go, gang. Thanks for being here. Well, hey everybody, welcome back to the Holistic Savage Podcast, where we like to talk about all things related to functional health, including functional medicine, functional fitness, functional spirituality, and functional psychology. So, we have one of my favorite people on this earth, returning guest, Hormone Queen superstar, the one and only Carrie Jones. Carrie, I've missed you. I really just scheduled this so I could talk to you for like an hour and a half. How are you doing?
Oh my gosh. All morning, as I was saying prior to going live, today was not my day, but I was so excited to know that we were talking on your podcast so I could see your face and we could just hang out and talk. So I'm thrilled to be here. Yeah, no, me too. It's been a very trippy past year. We won't even go into that, but it was a hard year. Fortunately, it gave people like us time to cultivate our online stuff. You just hit 100,000. That's a huge milestone. Big congratulations. Thank you. On Instagram, it's been a super, ups, downs, challenges, but mostly a lot of fun. I meet the most interesting, the most fun, the coolest people on Instagram. So I love that part. Yeah, no, it's been fun to watch. You have been doing a kick-ass job with it for a long time, and the Instagram game, that's a huge thing, and there's really no secret. It's just a lot of consistent engagement and high quality, and you've got to have your thing that you're nailing and nobody else is. So watching you has given me a lot of inspiration and hope. And you've got it dialed in though, man. Yeah. Watching you have a strategy and your education, it's working. Yeah, well, honestly, that's where kudos to you, because I really was looking at. I'm like, okay, you know what Carrie and Nicole do really, really well is it's consistent. The look and feel is consistent. And it's a progressive series, right? Because if it's random, it just doesn't get the same traction. But if you're kind of consistently it builds off itself, that keeps them engaged. And so, I definitely learned a lot from watching you. But you're way nice, you engage with them. I see your face, whereas me, I'm just I'm gonna put up my post and hide. But you shouldn't, because people love to see your face, and 2, you are also super entertaining, and so they want to hear from you.
Well,
I appreciate. We're like, go to the podcast.
I appreciate. I need to show the hairy mug on there a little bit. We'll get there, but congratulations.
Thank you.
Deserved, and it's. I was just saying to another friend, I was like, with Jill Carnahan, I was chatting with her, and I was like, yeah, because we're talking about like, hey, we're going to Florida this weekend, and we were talking about like, hey, we should go to Portland and see all the people. And I was telling her, I was like, Carrie was like the first friend I made in this industry. She's one of my best, closest friends. Like, you're just a rock star of a person. You're an ambassador. You're a leader in the industry. You're an expert in your realm. But on top of that, you're just a magical human. And I know that all of our followers feel that. And that's why it's so great to have you back on this podcast.
Oh, Brendan. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm like start crying. Like, that's so sweet. Oh, Thank you. Thank you from my heart.
No, I mean it. I've kind of got something I've noticed over the years, and this might be a nice way to start a conversation about mental health, but I think, like we were saying off screen, of like, if you don't express it, you depress it. And I find so often in today's world, I don't know what it is. I think sometimes I think a lot of people maybe are not fully emotionally available, or maybe emotionally stunted, or emotionally constipated, as I like to call it. But either way, I'm like, I don't think our society does a great job of expressing our love and admiration for one another's. And I don't fully know why that is. I think people just kind of get weird and uncomfortable around emotion, but it's like, you got to tell people, like, if you care about them, let them know. If you're proud of them, let them know. It just, right. So often, and we live in this weird world where it's like, okay, we're projecting our avatars and we've got the thousands of followers, but how often are we actually engaging in like a meaningful, energetic, heartfelt, right. sincere exchange? So I'm glad.
It's interesting when you were saying that, I was thinking back to two conversations actually with kids. And I think, we learn a lot about emotional maturity, emotional intelligence, mental health growing up, right? We either learn it on our own, we learn it watching from our friend groups, we learn it from our parents, we learn it from maybe people who are pseudo-parents in our life. And I remember there was a teenager who she has a lot to do in our life. And she said, I didn't know couples could be or would be affectionate and could communicate or could argue and talk it out until like watching you and your husband, because what she grew up in was very, very different, and she thought that was normal. And so she said, it's been really nice to watch what a couple maybe could or should, or just other options, as opposed to shut off, cold, fighting all the time. That's what she learned was normal growing up. And I thought, man, that had not dawned on me. I'm aware of it, but to have somebody close to me point that out to me and say, I didn't grow up with that. I didn't know, like, when I get in relationships as a teenager heading into my 20s, what to do. I was going to do this other thing over here because that's what I learned was normal. And watching you express yourself and communicate and work through is important, because that's what I want to do when I get into relationships. Now, that's just in a relationship couple example, but I think the same applies. I love that with what you had said about emotional constipation. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
But I think people get suppressed. I think they get sort of stuffed down, or they get told whatever, and they don't learn how to channel their emotions, how to express their emotions, or they do and they're not heard, and so they just shut it down. I mean, I think a lot of it goes to how we grow up, not even from little kid, but even as teenagers, we get older. And I think that's really important. And having seen patients as primarily women my whole career, I mean, I can see it in 40-year-olds, I can see it in 50-year-olds, I see it in women who've gone through divorce in their 50s and 60s, and then they're like, oh my gosh, I have to learn how to handle these emotions because I was emotionally this way with my partner, and that partner is no longer around. And so I like having to relearn some of this stuff. And I was like, wow, why don't they teach this in school?
I know.
Like, why didn't we get this in elementary school or high school?
Yeah, no, we're scratching on some big, powerful stuff there that could easily be its own, very long conversation of just emotional availability and the domestication. And I think every young person, like in their, or early adult life, they need to go through that like reality wrecking moment, that awakening phase of like, wait a second, like everything I think I know was, programmed and domesticated into me. And it's like, these are not necessarily my belief systems. They were instilled into me. Like, what kind of reality do I want? And I always joke, like, you kind of have to just wreck the whole thing and just start over, build your own new reality, and, be whatever magical butterfly you really want to be. And of course, that's where, Nicole with her book about to come out, and because she, like, holy guacamole, has anybody ever put into like a curriculum, a self-taught curriculum, the arts of like, navigating all of those, wounded inner child domestications and faulty self-limiting belief systems, right? Like, you can teach that, but to your point though, that's something where you so well embody and like exuberate and radiate that loving aura, right? And so that's where, I mean, hey, I've heard a lot of doctors talk on stage about hormones and, very emotionally closed off and monotone and stoic. And it's like, I think there's a lot to be said for the healing capacity when we allow the chi to flow and we express the love. You know what I mean?
It also, I mean, I'm an extrovert, right? I'm a redhead. Well, naturally, normally I was born a redhead. I'm a Gemini, like I'm all the things. So I'm emotional before I'm logical. So when I talk about hormones, that's really how I view the world, and that's really how I express and interact. And that's how I interact with my friends. That's how I interact with my husband. That's how I interact with Dutch, the company I work for. And so it seems to really help. People are like, gosh, I just really like the way that you teach. I really like the way that you say that. I really like, and I'm like, because I don't know any other way. If somebody said, can you tone it down to be professional? It's like,
it's a big ask.
I don't know. I'm kind of emotional. So I get all excited and I talk fast and I, sometimes swear inappropriately, and, it just makes it easier. And so that's just like you said, like, I feel like that's what comes through. That's how I channel when I talk through hormones. But I do recognize, there are a lot of people not like that at all. And that can be very overwhelming to them. They're much more on the introverted scale. They have a hard time connecting with their emotions. And then to the title of this whole podcast, then you put hormones on top of it, and it can be a really tough struggle in life.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And it's allowing your being brave enough to let your authenticity shine through, or whatever it is, or just not giving a fig Newton. But it's like, well, to be anything less than authentic costs energy. As far as, that's kind of my take on it, is like, to suppress or repress your authenticity, it's like you have to use ATP, you have to use energy to like not be authentic. So you gotta just gotta.
But on the flip side, you have to have ATP to do it in the first place, right? Like you have to have the cortisol to do it in the first place. You have to have the hormones in the first place to give you the energy to be authentic, to be out there, to accomplish your goals and dreams. And so it can go both ways. You can take a lot of energy to suppress who you are, and you can not have the energy to express who you are. And I think a lot of people struggle with that. I was talking to a friend of mine who said to me, like, where did I go? Like 10 years ago, I was outgoing and I was spontaneous and I was fun and I was funny. And 10 years later, I feel bogged down by life, and I have all these responsibilities, and I have 2 jobs, and I have a family, and it's now the pandemic, and it's like never ending, and I don't feel like I get to have a lot of fun anymore, and I always say no, and I'm not big on spontaneity. And she recognizes this. She's like, what happened to me? Where did I go? And I don't have it. She's like, I don't have the energy. I don't have the energy to be spontaneous. I don't want to. I'm like, I think that's more common than we think. And now what we're struggling with so much is burnout, right? We have so much of the world that's struggling with burnout, that it's real.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love that huge connection you just made. I mean, we're talking about psychology and personality and social interaction, but then you just directly, because I mean, I don't think I've actually explained this, but my whole like little yin yang brain thing that I have on my my Instagram post, that's what that yin yang brain represents, is kind of the psychology, the physiology, and it's like we can't deny that, because if we're talking about like social behavior, it's like, well, yeah, but like if your mitochondria, your hormones or whatever it is are super tanked out, like you're not showing up as your authentic self, your machinery is off. And then we kind of have to like break down the milieu of, it's like, well, you've got the psychological factors and the physiological, and it's like, where is a self-healer to even begin? So
right, and we see all these like hashtag self-heal, or self-care, hashtag self-care. People are like, I don't even have the energy for that. Like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, self-care is like not whipping myself to get off, the bed or whatever, but
right, busy, right? What's that quote that I see all the time? Busy is not a badge of honor. Burnout is not a badge of honor. I'm like, yeah, but I'm 100% just as guilty, for sure. It's something I have to talk myself down on all the time. But it's a driving force in our society, to go, to do, to achieve, to burn out.
Yeah.
And do all the things, and then look at us now.
Yeah, I know. It's like I don't think zebras get ulcers. We should
right.
we should be like zebras more. Or maybe we should read that book or something. So
right.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. So, I just the word on the street, aka that you just told me a few minutes ago, you're talking about mitochondria at the Naturopathic conference, and we all love you as the Hormone Queen. So, hormones.
But they're tied together.
They are. They seem to be. It's almost like everything's connected.
Yeah, it's weird.
It is weird. So, hormones and mental health. Do you think there's a connection there? Do you think there's an association there?
Oh, I've read a little bit of literature. Seems to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a huge connection. Oh my gosh, hormones. All the hormones, they have a massive impact on everything in the body, including our mental health, including what happens in the brain, including our neurotransmitters, including the neurotransmitters that are out in the periphery as opposed to up in the brain. Absolutely, they do. I mean, even just a super like classic example we hear all the time in functional medicine: anxiety. Why, as a woman, as she gets closer to perimenopause and menopause, does her anxiety go up? Does she feel a little more restless? Maybe a little less filtery? She just says what she means. It's not always a bad thing. One of the reasons, there are many, one of the reasons that she's losing progesterone. And when you, as a woman, when we make progesterone, one of progesterone's breakdown products can cross the blood-brain barrier and touch on GABA. GABA is our calming, soothing, relaxing neurotransmitter in the brain. So if you touch on that receptor, you feel calm, essentially. Really, really simple. So as women are headed closer to menopause and they're not making progesterone like they used to in their younger years, they're more prone to anxiety. So now she goes to her doctor and she says, I don't get it. I'm 45. I'm anxious all the time. I don't really sleep. And what do? They're like, yeah, here's Xanax, right? Here's Zolpidem for sleep. Here's Tylenol PM. Here's an antidepressant. You'll be fine. When really, it's possible, because of this transition, this hormonal transition in this one example, it's progesterone. I mean, we could do other things. It's not necessarily an anti-anxiety, not necessarily, but it traces back to hormones. And that's just one of many examples. And when I say this to women, they're like, are you kidding me? I had no idea. Like, really, that's what that hormone did. It's like men. I ask women and men at the same age, men at the same age, are you grumpier? Are you more depressed? Are you less motivated and less focused? Could be your testosterone plays a big role, and men think, oh, testosterone erection, right? Testosterone fertility. But they don't think, oh, testosterone, no testosterone, grumpy, angry, depressed, unmotivated. And so hormones play a big role.
It sure seems like it. It sure
seems like it.
I
love it.
I've been around a lot of women that I'm like, wow, you're really anxious. Like, I wonder what your Dutch test looks like. I bet I could guess.
I know. And even estrogen. Women can't win with estrogen. Well, men too, but let's talk about women because it's just we have more of it.
Totally.
High or low estrogen affects our brain chemicals. So if you don't cycle, let's say you have what's called amenorrhea, so you don't get a period, or maybe you're menopausal, and you're like, gosh, why am I more sad, more depressed, more blah? Well, we need estrogen to stimulate the enzyme that makes serotonin. But on the flip side, if you have a lot of estrogen, let's say you're what they consider like estrogen dominant, PMS and fibroids and tender breasts and heavy periods and endometriosis and all this stuff, more estrogen than you need. Having lots of estrogen will divert the pathway, the tryptophan pathway, away from serotonin and down a different pathway. So women can't win either way. Whether we have too little or too much estrogen, it's going to affect our mood.
Such a sweet spot.
One of the things. It's not the only thing. I don't want people to hang their hat on estrogen, but it is a big thing as a woman when, the core of us are kind of our cycle. It's kind of around our cycle when it comes to health.
When I was just, excuse me, chatting with one of my students who has a lot of, we were looking at a Dutch test and her cycle mapping and all of that, and it's like, hormones are so, especially for women, so tricky because it's like you're trying to throw a dart and hit a bullseye, but the thing's on a pendulum, right?
It's spinning.
Like and it's spinning.
Yeah,
and it's on fire.
Right. Absolutely.
Flames.
Yeah.
Of course as well, and so we'll kind of break this down a little bit because it's like we have all these different types of hormones. We've got our androgens and estrogens and progesterone and cortisol and whatnot, and it gets really complicated. So like with estrogen, something I've been reading into a little bit more, because it seems like estrogen is at physiological levels like pretty neuroprotective, and it has big, role in serotonin receptor expression, and it even blocks interleukin-6, I was reading, and has some I'd love for you to take over from
estrogen's
there.
important in the immune system. Estrogen's important for the heart. It's important for skin and collagen. It's important for bones. It's important, believe it or not, for lubrication. It's important for so many things. So at physiologic levels, which is of course normal, natural in the body, as opposed to too low or too high, estrogen can really be helpful. It can be really helpful. And even for dopamine we talk about with like motivation and learning, energy, addiction. Too low or too high of estrogen, just like too low or too high of testosterone, can affect a person's dopamine in their brain. So hormones really play a big role.
And then testosterone seems to have,
Hey guys, I just wanted to take a moment to thank you all so much for listening to the Holistic Savage podcast. We on the Holistic Savage team all really appreciate you and want to stay connected with you. So please rate, review, and subscribe to help the podcast grow. And if you like the podcast, help get the word out. And now, back to the show.
Something that seems, so it's like, you'll have like the absolute level of a single hormone, but then also too kind of like the ratios, because something like with your testosterone levels or androgens compared to the estrogens, and it's like you could have testosterone levels that are like totally fine, but if your estrogen is like too low or too high in relation to that, you still might manifest as if you had low testosterone even. Right?
Yeah.
And so
for men or women, right? For men or women. Absolutely. Women get a lot of the press just because women tend to go to the doctor or a health practitioner, right, over the male in their life. But I want men to understand who are listening to this, like, you're just as at risk. You're just as at risk. We have to look at your estrogen too. Too high of estrogen in men, it's depression, it's weepiness, right? It's unmotivation. Just like too low of estrogen in men, we have to worry about things like your bone health, which you wouldn't like think about. We talk about bone health in women, but bone health in men, which I know is not mental health, but still men kind of think like, oh, it's all testosterone all the time. And you and I both know like, oh no, no. All the hormones apply to everybody. It's just at different ratios, just like you said.
Oh, absolutely. So we'll reverse engineer this a little bit where, you know, it's like I tend to see a lot of the same kind of patterns over and over. There's just a lot of an estrogen dominance ratio going on. Cortisol, who knows what's going on with that? It's just all over the place all the time. You know, thyroid is usually on the like subclinical area where it's like, well, it's not horrible enough that like a conventional MD is really going to care, but you're not really kicking too well. So kind of like zooming out a little bit, and we'll zoom out, zoom in, go all over the place. What would you say, you know, somebody was like, Carrie, so what's driving all this? Like, what's the main thing that's really screwing up all my hormones? Like, why is our entire population so hormonally
challenged?
FUBAR, yeah, challenged. Nice way to put
FUBAR is good though. I like FUBAR. Honestly, I think it's a multiple layered onion, right? That has to do with this. It's diet, but it even backs up to like our agricultural practices. You know, what our soil system is like, the way we take care of our animals, how we grow our plants, what we use on them, fertilizers, pesticides, what have you, what our soil quality is. And then the choices we make in diet. It's lifestyle, you know, it's our sleeping habits, it's our hydration habits, it's how we handle our stress, it's the environmental toxins that are around us knowingly and unknowingly. It's our genetics, right? That all these things, genetics, as the saying goes, genetics loads the gun, but it's everything else. It's all the other choices that actually pulls the trigger, meaning you could have the gene for cancer as an example, just to be super generic, but it may never fire because you've done all these sort of steps to help reduce the risk of ever activating that gene. Or on the flip side, maybe you've done all the things. You smoke and you drink and you know, live on Snickers and you sleep at all sorts of odd hours and you're on your screen all the time and you have unhealthy sort of relationships and unhealthy mindset and what have you, like we can get to worst case scenario. And so I think when we look at all of that, our hormones, you know, our brain is constantly surveying to see, like, are we safe enough and are we healthy enough? And if not, then it makes adjustments. If not, then it makes adjustments. And so that's when it leads to this ongoing hormone challenges that so many people experience. And so, and it's hard as a practitioner to watch because some of the stuff is totally in our control. Absolutely. Some of the choices we make, what have you, some of it's not really in our control. Maybe it's out of our budget. And obviously survival is way more important than some of these things that are, you know, high cost. And then it's not fair because then why are they high cost? Like, why is an organic salad not on the dollar menu? Like, that's not fair, right? And then environmental toxins. Why does all this get marketed to us as perfectly safe, but yet they're known endocrine disruptors? And we don't need more disruption in our hormone, our endocrine system. But yet they're pretty packaged, they're marketed great, they smell amazing, and we bring them into our home not realizing until we do some digging and, you know, learn some more. And so it's such a big topic, and there's a lot we can do, you know, for the people listening. Like, there's so much that we can do, but at the same time, it takes a lot of education. But it's all of those things at the crux. It's like really big agricultural, pharmaceutical, chemical, bad chemicals that are bad for us. Not all chemicals are bad. You know, things. And then all the way down to us as people, as microscopic people, the choices that we make in our day-to-day to put in our body, that to have around our house, the people that we're with, like, that all affects our hormones.
We have officially blown the lid off Pandora's
I know.
box here.
It's a big box too. Oh my gosh, I know. And the reason I say this is because, you get it all the time. People, What can I do to balance my hormone? What one thing can I take? What magic pill? What herb? Is it B12? Is it ashwagandha? Like, just tell me, I'll take it. And I'm like, look, I swear to the goddess above, if I had the magic plant that would cure your hormone balance, whatever that is, I would drop ship it across the world for free, because it would just make everybody happy and healthy and likable and lovable and joyful, and let's just do it. But unfortunately, there's no one magic diet. There's no one magic pill. There's no one magic exercise. There's no one magic tea or plan for everybody. And that's why I point out the big stuff just as much as the little stuff, because I want people to know, okay, I can make choices and do the best that I can, but some of the stuff is out of my control. But I'm gonna recognize it, but understand it's not a lot. I can't do a lot about agriculture unless I own my own farm. I do not ever plan to own a farm. I'm a city mouse, not a country mouse. And so, right, some of these things, like I just want people to recognize how big it is. But even as an individual person, you can do a lot to help your hormones, your daily life, and your mental health.
Love it.
Don't get overwhelmed, even though that can be hard for people.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm glad that we're starting with big picture, because a lot of times, like if I'm on a podcast or something, of course, people are wanting to ask me all these, like what they want to hear from me is the technical stuff on, mental health and why their brains are on fire and all of that. And a lot of times before I even, start humoring them with the technicalities, it's like, look, before we go there, it's like, we are the only living species in existence, as far as we know, that lives dysbiotically with the natural world. We are the only living species that doesn't live in homeostatic harmony with the natural world. We're the only species that have abandoned our natural primal organic roots. And so, like, even lately on the gram, I've been getting a few people that are kind of like, well, Brendan, you're telling us about all this scary stuff, but you're not telling us how to solve it. So then this week I'm talking about just sunlight and what sunlight does for you and moving. But Tina's posted some funny memes about this, and there's something to be said for this, where we live in this age of information, and we have this weird cancel culture thing, and it's like, well, everything has to have a bunch of scientific studies behind it, otherwise it couldn't possibly be true, even if it's intuitive or common sense or whatever.
Right.
And it is weird, right? Like, why? Because that's what people want, right? And that's where, like, functional medicine is kind of a paradigm or methodology. It's a very easy thing to sell, right? Of, we're going to run some tests, we're going to identify your root cause, we're going to throw some supplemental darts at that root cause, and then poof, everything goes away. You just get a lot better. And something that just, especially with a background in coaching, something I've always found a lot of value in with running a hormone test, a Dutch test, is it forced, I guess it's all in the interpretation, but it forces the dialogue to go back to a much bigger picture about the environment. And it almost kind of begs to ask, like, as a super organism that is the human form, are we simply a product of our environment, or is there more to that? Because, and it's probably both, but if we're a product of our environment, we are kind of screwed, right?
Right. If we do nothing about it.
Yeah, like, I try to even help people understand that, and kind of, so that way they're not blaming themselves and putting fault on themselves of, like, look, there's this thing called glyphosate, that kind of sucks. There's this thing called EMF, and we're all just sort of drowning in it every day. And that's without even getting into just the societal culture we've created and the go and whatnot. So it's like, when you're consulting with somebody, like, where do you even begin to help that person?
One of the things you said just earlier was that how, there's a lot of maybe pushback if they don't have a lot of literature studies, right, surrounding a suggestion, a thought, a process. And I always tell, again, I primarily see women, but men as well. I always tell women, like, you are the master of your own body, and you live in it 24/7 and have since birth. Therefore, if you do or don't like something, you're right. So even if a study says, for an example, I did a post about magnesium. There are countless studies around magnesium and muscle spasms, brain health, bone health, mood, right? Menstrual health, reproductive health, hormone health, like whatever it is. There's so many studies around magnesium. And I have women that write me and go, every time I try magnesium, I get migraines. It's studied to prevent migraines, and they get a headache out of the magnesium. And what they get told is, that's not possible. Research says it's not possible. I'm like, but to this one person, this is what happens. Like it just is. And so one of the things I always say to people is, you know, and if you don't know yet, if you're not quite in tune with your body, like just give it some time, you will. But like you will start to notice, you will start to know like, this is working for me, or oh no, this isn't working for me. Or a lot of times I will say to somebody, what's a food that you know you shouldn't be eating and you eat it anyway? And usually the answer is fast and furious. You know, usually it's like ice cream or coffee or whatever it is, right? Like bread, or I know I shouldn't, but I just love it so much. And so I like, just, okay, you just listen to yourself. You first and foremost, you know what's going on. Just because we don't have a study around it, just because there isn't a $4 million, grant going towards the study, listen to yourself. And then the next thing I talk a lot about are what you talk about, the basics. People expect high cost things out of me. And like cortisol is a great thing. I talk about sunshine in the morning. Since years ago, I heard Dr. Tom Williams talk about the cortisol awakening response. He's kind of like the father. I mean, the cortisol awakening response has been in humans since the dawn of day. But who talked about it originally was Dr. Tom Williams, put it in his book. And I heard him speak, read the book, highlighted the whole thing. And I started talking about it ad nauseum all over the place. And lo and behold, the Graham and all these other people started talking about it too. Like, oh man, she makes a good point. And I'm like, Tom makes a good point. So when you get full spectrum light in the morning, when you get sunshine in the morning, doesn't have to be sunshine, just some brightness in the morning. It helps tell your body to make cortisol. And what it does is it helps with setting your circadian rhythm. And your circadian rhythm is set and dictated by something called the clock genes, just like the clock on your wall, and that it lives in your brain. And it's set and reset by light and darkness. Light and darkness, that's our biggest entrainers, as they call them. So I didn't say ashwagandha, I didn't say intermittent fasting, right? I didn't say B12. What I said was light and dark. Those other things are helpful, but they're not the big thing. So give them what they want. Give them light in the morning and sleep in darkness at night. Get off your screen at night, wear blue light blocking glasses, which don't have to cost very much money. So in your body, you have baby clocks in all your glands. This means in your testicles and my ovaries, in our pancreases and our, adrenal glands, we have baby clocks. And our baby clocks are looking to our master clock in our brain going, how do we fire? When do we fire? When do we go? Like, what time is it? Is it lunchtime yet? I feel like it's lunchtime. Should we go now? And so they're always setting off of each other and the clock in the brain. So if you're a man or a woman and you have hormonal issues affecting all these symptoms, then I like to start with the basics. If you can open your window and look outside for 5 or 10 minutes in the morning, or spend $20, 30 tops on Amazon and get a full spectrum light box. And at night, if you can spend, $20, $30, $40 on blue light blocking glasses and put them on at night, just that alone can be really helpful with the basics and really help your body remind itself when to release cortisol and when not to. Get you back in rhythm with the earth, get you back in rhythm with the sun and the moon, and get all your systems, all your rhythms back. And it takes time. It's not overnight. This isn't Amazon. You don't get it in 2 days, but it does help eventually if you're consistent. And so when you ask, where do I start? I'm like, I've really recognized the importance of the basics and the importance of what we can do that's free, cheap, and easy. Because there's a lot of it. You can spend $200 on blue light blocking glasses, and there are some super cute, and I'm saying this as a girl, super cute blue light blocking glasses out there. You don't have to. And they're still cute. Just make sure that they're really blue light blocking. When you get them, hold them up to a blue light and make sure that you can't see it.
No joke. Yeah, that's how you know. I literally just bought. I've had a lot of pairs over the years, and they keep kind of getting scratched or broken. So I finally just now I bought $100, $120 pair of they're like aviators, but super dark orange.
Look at you, trendy.
Yeah, I know. So I can't, because those are actually a sexy enough pair. Like I would wear those in public. I wouldn't. Yeah. I remember I saw Dr. Ruscio, and he was rocking like the $7 Uvex. That's just like this, thick piece of plastic. Yes. I'm like, rock on, bro. Yep. Like, good for you, man. But no, it's so good to hear, because something that I've experienced, and I imagine a lot of fellow functional people do. It's like there's a lot of almost kind of pressure that people, the populace, clients, patients kind of put on us of like, okay, well, you're the functional person, and I need you to, that's what they want, right? And it's a lot of this, and that's a huge psychology conversation of, kind of spiritually bypassing and bypass all the basics of exactly that. What's that? Give me that magical protocol. And that was kind of weird, because especially with my, starting my career in fitness and nutrition coaching, and then, over the years kind of gravitating more into the functional medicine space. And that threw me off, because I was like, well, okay, surely we're all on the same page that, like, if you're not practicing the sleep hygiene, you're not spending time in nature, you're not laughing, you're not having sex, you're not working out, you're not eating real food, you're not drinking water and only water, then what's the point in any of this? And so it kind of threw me off. And that's always kind of my advice to people when they start kind of asking these down the rabbit hole. It's like, and I don't want to be mean, because I have had that. I have had these people that, like, they are the epitome of metabolic syndrome, and they're asking these really technical, like, well, but my polymorphism doesn't allow me to convert this to that. And I'm like, whoa. Yeah. It's a lot of stuff. And I think we need, and a lot of what you're saying, a lot of the things that you're posing rhetorically as questions, that's where that, that motivational interviewing of kind of like, well, the Dutch test, that's really cool, and, showing us all sorts of stuff. So then it's like, let me hold up the mirror of reflection of like, why do you think your cortisol awakening response is like a flatline zombie? Like,
why do you think your melatonin's low? What are you doing at night? Oh, you're on Netflix for hours because you're addicted to all the TV shows while you scroll your phone at the same time.
Yeah.
At the beginning of, the pandemic, a lot of people were posting about like Tiger King, or they're like watching this serial killer, like all the serial killer documentaries, which I can't watch at all because I get scared. And then they couldn't sleep. We were getting Dutch. We're getting these, like insomnia. I'm like, because you stayed up to watch this serial killer documentary till midnight, 2 a.m, and like, come on, genius. Why do you think you can't sleep? And I actually have said that a few times, and people go, oh my gosh, I never put 2 and 2 together. I just, didn't realize that would really key up my fight or flight system, fight, flight, freeze, and, sort of spin me out of control. Now I can't sleep. Now I'm tired the next day. It's affecting my mental health. It's affecting my hormones. It's affecting my blood sugar. They don't know it because, per se, but we know it. We know poor sleep affects your blood sugar and the way you handle blood sugar and your insulin the whole next day for a lot of people. And then it just gets perpetuated. And then blood sugar affects your hormones and your mental health, right? It's just like everybody just circles back around on one another.
Yeah.
So I work for a lab. I work for a hormone lab. Full straight up disclosure. And I will tell people, in instances, don't do the Dutch test. You have other stuff to work on first. Save your money. But if people want to, or it is the right thing to do, then while we're waiting for the results to get back, I'm like, all right, while we're waiting for the results to get back, you told me you drink 2 cups of water a day and 4 cups of coffee and a Red Bull. Like, you told me you go to bed at 11, play on your phone for an hour, get up, play on your phone, don't exercise, sit at your desk all day because you work from home, struggling to handle stress. Like, let's start with these like baby basics just until we get the results back, and let's see what happens.
Well, and that's a lot of times, I'll kind of, well, yeah, I talk a lot of people out of a lot of testing and stuff, because we do. I totally get it. There's few things I like more than just looking at people's labs. It's fun for me. It's fun. I enjoy it. But I'm the first to tell them. My business partner would vouch for me. I talk people out of it all the time. And ultimately, what I try to teach people is look, there's two reasons to run tests. There's clinical data, so we know what the hell is going on and trying to navigate that efficaciously, versus a coaching tool, a compliance tool, because there's so many tests that honestly, from a clinical perspective, you really probably don't need it. But from a seeing is believing, a coaching compliance and accountability,
it sure works.
The data doesn't lie, right? It's microbiome testing is super convoluted. But hey, if you need to see that piece of paper to start taking your gut health more seriously, sure, let's spend that. I was just trying to save you $500, but whatever.
Right.
But that's a beautiful thing with hormone balances, because there is no way you can do all the DIM or tribulus or whatever, trying to shove the hormones, but
right. Even the microbiome, right? The microbiome is the vagus nerve going from the gut up to the brain. One, affects hormones, and two, mental health, but three, everything in the gut affects your hormones. Everything. Your gut itself, there are bacteria in your gut itself that can actually make hormones. You have bacteria that tear apart hormones so they can get recirculated back into the body. And so even just simple things, when women say to me, I have a bowel movement every other day, every 2 days. I'm like, whoa, we need to get you eliminating regularly, daily, if not twice a day, because that whole toxin load that is just sitting in your intestines because you don't have a bowel movement every day is getting pulled back into the body. And that's part of the reason, pun intended, you feel like shit.
Yeah.
Right? And it's part of the reason the hormones don't feel great, because the hormone that was tagged to be excreted, released, detoxed, gets pulled back in because it's just sitting there. It's like a stopped roller coaster that won't go anywhere, and people are like, oh, I'm getting out. This is dumb. I'm getting out. And so that's what happens in the GI tract too. And so just those simple things can really be life-changing for a lot of people. I was talking recently, and I've talked about carrots for a long, long time. So the fiber in full adult carrots, right? Not baby carrots. Baby carrot. Look up how baby carrots are made. It'll gross you out. But right. But full adult carrots. So organic, raw, washed carrot. Don't peel it. Just wash the skin. That fiber helps. One, with regular bowel movements, but two, it helps with eliminating estrogen properly. And I've absolutely had women say to me, you know what? As I get close to PMS and I'm moody, and I'm sad or depressed or anxious or what have you, I've been eating more carrots as my snack. And I've been noticing over my last couple cycles, I'm feeling a lot better. It's actually helping. It's getting my bowels moving. It's a great snack alternative compared to chips. And my hormones feel a little bit better. And I'm like, man, carrots. Who knew?
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? They're pretty cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, you still get organic, but it's just these adjustments, I think, can make rippling effects for a lot of people. When you get a coffee cup, when you go get, some coffee to go, tea to go, Starbucks, whatever, and you have the plastic lid on it, and then you drink your hot drink through the plastic lid, you're drinking that plastic. Heating up plastic pulls the chemical into the liquid, and then you drink it. So those plastics are what we call xenoestrogens, or endocrine disruptors. So what they do is they bind to the estrogen receptor and turn it on. So your ovaries as a woman, or your estrogen as a man didn't want that on, but it didn't matter. Plastic does what it wants. It doesn't have to listen to you. And so it binds the receptor and turns it on. And now you have all the excess estrogen symptoms, and you feel like crap, and you're moody, right? And you're PMSy, and your periods are heavy, and your breasts are tender, and so I'm like, all right, take the lid off. Yes, I realize a lot of these cups, the inside is also lined, which is a problem, but we're just, try to reduce. So at least take the lid off, or bring your own to-go cup that they fill for you. Although I heard in the pandemic that a lot of coffee companies weren't allowing you to bring your own container, your own coffee cup anymore. But just like little things like that, you know, we got rid of straws to save the turtles, but it also got rid of, like, people were drinking hot drinks with straws to not mess up their makeup, their lipstick, to not get coffee stains on their teeth. And you would think like, oh yeah, iced coffee, not as bad, it's cold. People were totally drinking hot coffee with a plastic straw. And so now everyone switched to stainless steel.
Hey everybody, Brendan Vermeyer here, the owner and founder of the Metabolic Solutions Institute for Functional Health and Fitness Practitioners. I could not be more excited about our upcoming workshop on mastering neuroinflammation and neuroplasticity. If you are struggling with your mental health, or you are a practitioner or clinician or coach working with clients and patients struggling with their mental health, I think you'll want to listen up for just a minute or two because I have some important information to share. If you're not familiar with the concept in the science of neuroinflammation, neuroplasticity, excitotoxicity, and what I have coined as microglial activation syndrome, I really think you'll want to consider attending this upcoming workshop. It's going down May 8th, 6 hours of the best evidence-based education for functional health coaches, functional medicine practitioners, doctors, clinicians of all kinds. Now, you don't have to be a health professional to attend or purchase the workshop. Self-healers are invited. Now, with that said, yes, the information is at a professional medical level. We're going to be going deep into the molecular mechanisms of understanding exactly what is neuroinflammation and the plethora of factors and root causes that exacerbate and perpetuate neuroinflammation. We're going to be going deep into what is excitotoxicity and neurotoxicity and the many factors that exacerbate that as well, that then feeds right into neuroinflammation. Neuroplasticity has become a very hot subject in the psychological trauma space, the biohacker space, and it really has become a focal point of mental health and psychiatry research. So we're going to be unraveling all the complexities of neuroplasticity and what we can do to harness the healing power of neuroplasticity and its main neurotrophic factor, BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor. We are also going to be teasing open and unraveling what I have coined as microglial activation syndrome. Microglia are the innate immune cells of the central nervous system, and microglial dysfunction has been identified as an underlying etiological mechanism associated with every mental illness and neurodegenerative condition currently known to man. It has become a huge focal point of mental health and psychiatric research because we are now seeing that chronic overactivation of microglial cells is really the driving force behind all of these mental illnesses and neurodegenerative conditions. I've been doing my homework. We have hundreds of scientific studies and papers that we are going to be talking about, digging through. We're going to talk about all of the psychological, environmental, lifestyle, supplemental, and even pharmaceutical factors that we need to be taking into account to help our clients, patients, and selves not only reclaim, but then optimize their mental health and longevity. I hope to see you there. Now, be sure you get lifetime access to the recordings with your purchase of the workshop. I'd love to see you there live, May 8th, 6 hours. There's going to be all sorts of different health professionals there, but even if you can't make it live, you still get lifetime access to the recordings, and you also get access to the slide deck, which is packed full of so much science, so many research papers, so many clinical pearls, talking about all the testing, all the biomarkers, all the supplements, all the pharmaceuticals, all the intervention strategies that you need as a coach, practitioner, clinician, doctor, or self-healer to gain the mental health and reclaim that healthy and optimal way of life that you really deserve. And don't forget, everybody, to grab the free copy of the Mastering Neuroinflammation Neuroplasticity download that I made. It's about 6+ pages of a lot of fundamental information that you need to start decreasing your neuroinflammation and boosting your neuroplasticity. So don't forget to grab that free download. If you like the content of that, you're gonna love this workshop and you won't wanna miss it. Can't wait to see you all there.
Paper, but that kind of melts in hot coffee. You gotta be careful. So,
you need a clean
they need getting stainless steel drink water, glass. These little, again, free, cheap, and easy. Though there are next level things to do. So these are great for the people who are maybe new getting into this or maybe haven't heard about this before. Again, we're talking about mental health, but because it's a whole cascade effect, it's a domino effect. If you've turned on the estrogen receptor, or you've disrupted the cortisol, or you've upset the gut, it's just going to domino down, and in the mood and the mental health ties right in.
Mm-hmm. You know, it makes me think of this. I've got this, the OG spiritual gangster, Alan Watts. And that must have been, I don't know, 50s, 60s, whenever that dude was rocking it. But he said we're so tied up in our minds that we've lost our senses. And, you know, he also had some famous quotes about even like through the science of studying nature, we're destroying nature, right? And kind of tying back to my whole, you know, humans are the dysbiotic organism of this world. And you know, why I bring this up is it's interesting, again, kind of what we were saying about like, you know, where's the research to validate that sort of thing? Because like earlier this week, I put a post up about like Shinrin Yoku as medicine, you know, forest bathing as medicine.
Heck yeah!
Yeah, it made me sad. Nobody really, like, it was not one of my better performing posts.
Oh, that's funny. Well, maybe if you would have called it forest bathing, they would have started with that instead. Yeah, my husband, I've been to Japan. My husband used to live there, and we are very familiar. When you go to the forest there, when you go to the parks there and stuff, it's very popular.
Oh, absolutely. You know, forest bathing as medicine, and not a ton of people really respond to that post. But then, you know, the next couple days, I'm talking about like, okay, well, actually, you know, sunlight boosts D3, then serotonin, then BDNF, and it regulates intestinal permeability and brain detox. You know, all these really technical things. And don't get me wrong, that stuff is really cool, but it sometimes kind of begs to question of like, you know, that's how disconnected our species is from reality. But the beautiful thing is like the science constantly points us back towards nature. It points us back to, you know, more kind of just primal way of living. And so I always joke about this, but I'm not at all joking. I kind of have this whole thing of like return to symbiosis, and what does that look like? Or like I love Zach Bush, and he talks a lot about like, let's be co-creators with Mother Nature. And so, you know, that's the question, is what does that world look like? A world where, you know, we're instead of Wi-Fi, we're, you know, plugging the computers into the hyphae of the fungal networks of the earth or something, and we're living in tree houses, and we have, you know, regenerative agriculture, right?
Yes.
Because, you know,
but I think it's hard. Have you heard that statistic that most people spend most of their time within a 5-mile radius of their house? Have you heard that statistic before? Right. So if within 5 miles of your house, you don't have any outdoor space or nothing accessible, it's not safe, then for a lot of people, it's outside of their realm to go beyond that 5 miles. I live in Portland, Oregon. I'm about from the nearest ski resort, so we have a mountain, but like we have forest leading all the way up there. You know, for the nearest it's about an hour and 15. I'm an hour and 15 from the beach. Now I understand you have to have a car. It's, you know, I understand mode of transportation is important, but I have absolutely met people who have been like, oh, I've never been to the beach. I've lived here my whole life. Now I can understand if you don't like the beach, or if you're afraid of the beach, like things like that. I'm like, well, but at the forest. What if you just like went east, the direct opposite way? No, no, I don't do that. No, Portland we're a very lucky city. We're a very green city. We have a lot of trails. We have a lot of trees. We have a lot of rain, but we have a lot of outdoorsy places. But when you read these articles of cities, walkable cities, green cities, cities that consciously put green space in for people to enjoy, there are a lot that don't. There are a lot that don't. Or it's hours and hours of driving to try to get anywhere, to camp or to walk or what have you. Or people don't even have a backyard. I had a lot in the pandemic. We have the house we bought, my husband and I are not gardeners, but the people before us happen to be beautiful gardeners. So we are the byproduct of a beautiful backyard. And I had people that were like, man, you're so lucky I live in an apartment. I don't even have a balcony. I don't even have anything I can go out to, and I don't know what to do. Can't get to green space. And I think that's really sad. So I'm telling the people who can, just like you, like if you can, make it a priority. If you can. Because it'll make a world of difference. The air is just different. The electrons are different. I mean, it literally is recharging for the body.
Absolutely. It'll be really interesting to see, like in the coming years, some of the data that we get out of 2020, because it just like, 2020, I think was really just the epitome of really just highlighting the faulty way of modern humans, and sometimes
we're not prepared.
Not at all. I love zooming in to go micro, but sometimes I think zooming out first, or whatever, can be really helpful, because you start like for example, I mean, all of our functional friends and colleagues, like we all kind of have like our niche and our thing that we expertise in and whatnot. But I always tell people, it's like, yeah, but look at what we're all saying in common, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're saying stress less. We're saying, reduce your toxic burden. We're saying, grow a happy microbial garden in your body and whatnot. And so much of that and that's why, like, I say this sometimes sometimes I feel like functional fitness movement has done more for public health than functional medicine, in regards to, like, I am a CrossFit coach. That's one of my things, my credentials. I don't really use it anymore, but you look at what like CrossFit did for the world,
mm-hmm.
of how many thousands or millions of people across the world started eating more paleo, started moving
mm-hmm.
their body functionally with intensity, started getting together as a community, enjoying camaraderie for a workout, for a competition, right? So in as much as everybody wants to spend hundreds or thousands, well, not everybody, because not everybody can afford, and functional medicine's not very functional if nobody can afford it.
Right.
But it's like, if you have the means to afford all the lab testing and all the supplements, but without that 90% of like, do you have friends and community? Are you connecting emotionally? Are you moving in nature? So I think these types of conversations are really important to sort of, like, yeah, we can talk about the receptor activation, but
yeah,
we're missing the mark a little bit in some ways.
Yeah, I would 100%, and I 100% agree with you. This pandemic pointed out those glaring discrepancies, I think, to a lot of people as a population, and then as individuals. The number of DMs I got and comments I got from people who said, I live alone and this is hard. I don't have a community. I can't get to my community. My community was a community I used to fly to, and I can't, we're not flying right now, and Zoom can only get you so far, and FaceTime can only get you so far, and just that piece alone, it's does harm to the mental health. You could have started out the pandemic in the greatest mental health, and then, 6 months, 9 months feeling trapped and feeling alone and feeling isolated and struggling, it could really do a number. And I think we are seeing it. I'm here. I mean, at the very least, I'm hearing it. I don't know about the research on it, but I see it when people write me,
mm-hmm.
and they tell me their stories.
Well, it's like whether it's eating fake food or living most of our life inside, or then, with all the regulations, like, we're being pushed into the matrix,
Yeah.
that whole movie was great, and it's like that is just so real. I think I saw like Tina posted a funny meme about this of like, it's very apparent which of you have not seen like V for Vendetta.
Yes.
or Wall-E, or
right.
Some of these
kind
of dystopian alluding sort of to films and everything.
Yeah.
But it just kind of all hit this head in 2020. So if you were to create a list, because this is fun, we had Jess Petras on.
Yes.
She's our March episode, and you're our April.
Oh, how fun.
So by the time that this episode is airing, it'll, we had just done Jess Petras was talking about toxic load and stealth infections and stuff like that. So if CarrieJones was to create like a short list of the major things that are disrupting our hormones, the major factors, what would that look like?
What would that be? I know Jess's list because she posts it quite regularly when it comes to that. So I think I would. Well, I guess I should say I remember most of Jess's list, but from somebody who works at a hormone lab and sees what everybody's ticking off on the regular. Like sleep and energy are, I can't sleep and I don't have enough energy are probably a top, which obviously mold, you're right, mycotoxins, infections, parasites, what have you, can contribute to that. But going back to the basics, it's a lot of basics for me, in addition to the critters, right? In addition to the viruses, the mold, the mycotoxins, what have you. So it's our lifestyle habits, it's the food we eat, it's the choices we make, it's the people we surround ourselves with or don't. It's the environmental toxins, the toxin load that we have in our house, on our skin, in our shower, right, in our gardens. It's those sort of things that are really, I think, really messing up our hormones. Our lack of movement, our lack of sweating. I think that those are really big problems for us.
I love it.
And it sounds too basic. I get this a lot. Like, that just sounds so basic. But then when I tick through with somebody like, well, how much water do you drink? And what time did you go to bed last night? And did you wake up feeling? You should wake up and feel ready to go. You should go from conscious to alert in 20 to 30 minutes. That's what science says. Your cortisol awakening response kicks in about 20 to 30 minutes of your eyes opening up and light coming in. This means if you say to me, gosh, absolutely not. Are you kidding? I need a couple cups of coffee and about an hour or two to get ready. Your cortisol awakening response is dysfunctional. I don't even need a test. I can already tell you. And that's a problem. And so by addressing these common questions can really give me insight as to why your hormones are dysfunctional. It is a baseline. And then moving from there, then doing other testing to look at, like what really is the healthier mitochondria, what really is the healthier microbiome, what really is going on with your adrenals, your ovaries, your testicles, and move from there.
Well,
that's what I see.
That sounds just too damn simple to be true, though.
I know, and it's frustrating because people want to throw money at it. I've heard this saying multiple times. I originally heard it from Chris Kresser, but I don't think he's the original person to say it, just who I heard it from originally. You can't out-supplement a bad diet and lifestyle.
Yeah. Right?
Like, you can't continue to make choices that are probably not ideal for your health, your health goals, and just be like, I'll just supplement. I'll just take that. Adaptogens will save me. No, they won't. They're helpful. They're a Band-Aid. They're wonderful when you need them. But if you're not going to make any changes, then you're going to always get the same.
It's funny because, I joke, just I don't take myself that seriously. But, it's like I joke that I have a background in bro science, which is not really untrue. I was selling supplements at GNC when I was 18 years old.
Yeah.
And I was spending pretty much my entire paycheck on said mysterious concoctions on the shelves of such GNC. And so, that's like meathead science 101, right? Like, how do you jack up your testosterone? Go do some deadlifts, bruh. You know, like, do you even lift those heavy weights? And so like, I got tired of being a trainer and nutritionist because I was tired and living in this world that it was just like, it was just about working out, eating chicken and broccoli that you microwaved in plastic. Right? Like I got tired of that. And so then I ventured, I was like, okay, well, assuming that we have the fundamentals of sleep and stress management and community and exercise, you know, assuming that we actually have the fundamentals and you're still dysfunctional, then, and, you know, so then I shifted a lot and I found myself actually, you know, in the past few years, I was like, okay, well now I'm like really niched down where my whole life centers around mold and these people are really sick and they don't have any fundamentals. And on top of that, they've been living in a moldy house.
Right.
So, you know, to your point, if we kind of combined like Carrie's list with Jess's list and the Holistic Savage list and whatever, it's kind of like, all right, you know, that foundation is like 80-90% of the equation. And it's like, and then if you're doing all of that well, and this is, I always say, we need less biohacking and more behavior modification, right? Yeah, you can't out supplement a bad lifestyle and diet. And of course, that's where, yeah, I mean, how many, with 88% of Americans are metabolically ill, how many of us really have like a solid lifestyle foundation? But then, yeah, you start factoring in like, okay, well, high toxic load and EMF burden, nutrient deficiencies, right? Like we're the most overweight population on the planet, yet we're also really malnourished. Like, just doesn't even seem like that's very paradoxical.
How is it possible? But yep, there it is.
Right. You know, so I a lot, and that's kind of the world I love living in. It's like, all right, well, you have all these nutrient deficiencies. You have all these naughty microbes, as I like to call them. You have all this toxic burden. You've got all this stress. Where do you want to start?
That's where I think it helps to have a practitioner to guide you, right? That's where I think it helps to have a practitioner to guide you. Because I fully appreciate all the people out there doing it on their own. They are educating themselves, they're learning, but if you're, and they're trying one thing at a time, you know, I have women that write me and go, you know, because of you, I've started implementing this and I love it. And now I'm implementing this and this is going well. And then I'm going to implement this once I get there. And so they're just picking, they're just literally, to go back to the dart, throwing the dart, they're literally like, oh, okay, today we're going to start, you know, drinking more water. And, you know, next week we're going to start dry skin brushing. And the week after that, I'm going to start on 5 minutes of meditation. And the week after that, like they're just seeing things like, I can do that. I can implement that in my life. Let's add that to my list and see how I feel. And if it doesn't feel good, then don't do it, right? Like move on to the next thing on the list and see if it works. But if you're somebody who maybe has tried a lot of these things, or maybe you're thought, you know, just like I would hire maybe a therapist for my mental health, a coach for like when I go to the gym, a trainer, I'm going to hire a practitioner who's going to guide me through this, because they're going to be able to step back with no bias, because they're not in my head all the time, and go, you know what? It sounds to me like we need to start here and then work backwards. And I wish that's how maybe modern day medicine worked with people. We need conventional medicine. We need emergency medicine. We need antibiotics. Time and a place, 100%. But for the average chronic disease person to only get 6 to 8 minutes in a healthcare visit, in a walk-in clinic, in an urgent care, like that's just not possible. Like that's just not going to serve the needs of that person. So that's why it's really nice to have people like you and me and those in the functional field to go, you know, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help guide you and suggest and move you along the right way. So that's where I say, where do you start? Where do you start? If you're not overwhelmed and you're excited to try, start trying. Because like you said earlier, we're all basically saying the same thing at the fundamentals. If you're feeling overwhelmed, we got you. We have people for you, and we will help coach and guide you so that you don't have to maybe make the decision. Let us take the 360, you know, view of everything.
I got you, boo.
I got you, boo. I got your back. Boo. I will say, and I should have said this in the beginning, just for people who know your history, or maybe somebody who's listening to this maybe saw the title, Hormones and Mental Health, and and you are suicidal, like please get help, right? Like please reach out, please, if you're suicidal, don't think necessarily like, oh, well, getting sunshine, sleeping with, wearing blue light blocking glasses is going to fix this. Because I think, as you know, that's a much bigger deal than the fundamentals are very important. But if you're already to the point where you're feeling suicidal, like, reach out, get help, right?
Good point.
Hey guys, I just wanted to take a moment to thank you all so much for listening to the Holistic Savage podcast. We on the Holistic Savage team all really appreciate you and want to stay connected with you. So please rate, review, and subscribe to help the podcast grow. And if you like the podcast, help get the word out. And now, back to the show.
I saw Dr. How do you pronounce your name? Gabrielle Leon?
Oh, Lion.
Lion.
Yes.
Oh, so it's actually Lion.
It's literally Lion. Gabrielle Lion. Yes.
Such a lion.
Like the animal.
Yeah. She had a good post. She was talking about, the treatment should match the intensity of the treatment should match the severity of and I really liked what she was. I really like her style of how she, she does a good job with still kind of that conventional groundedness with a, with a certain, metabolic fitness spin on it. So I like that style. I like that angle. And with all of this, almost like a side note, I'm really glad you said what you said as far as work with a professional, right? And unfortunately, this is a little bit of a side effect, it seems, from this weird social media world that we live in, because I can only imagine what you deal with, and because I don't think people realize it's like when you have a sizable platform, there's a lot of boundary holding and kind of unspoken battles behind the scenes, and people can say some pretty awful things. But part of that too, my point being, seriously, get professional help. When my car, I'm not a handyman. I'm a one-trick basic white boy pony, and I'm not too proud to admit it. But when my car is making weird sounds, you think I'm going to try to Google and reverse engineer that?
You don't just throw somebody a comment on Instagram and ask them what you should do.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly.
You don't just DM somebody to be like, hey, my car is making this sound on the left side. It does this. Can you just tell me what to do for free?
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of entitlement behavior going on. And it's hard because it's like you and I, we spend so much time creating this content, posting it, pouring it out. And, some people, they're beautiful. They're like, you're amazing. Thank you so much. This is life-changing. But then you get those people you should give me more. It's not fair that you're not, it's not fair that we're not giving away everything in our brain for free that we worked really hard to, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Right.
Tina Moore, she's savage. She doesn't know.
She is a savage, right? You think you savage? No.
No.
She is a savage.
No.
I love her.
Yeah.
I see two sides, and I'm sure you would agree with me. I see sheer desperation.
Yeah.
Right? People are writing, people are commenting, and they are not getting the help they need wherever they are. They're desperate for help, and they're it's not entitled, they're just desperate.
Yeah.
And then I do see people who I'm not quite sure how to say, they live in their victimness. You're not giving me enough information. You won't answer my question. You won't tell me exactly what I need to do in the comments. That's not good enough. Be like, oh, I just answered that 2 posts ago, just go back. No, I need you to answer answer me specifically. Or no, I don't, that won't work for me. I'm not going to do that. I don't have time for that. I don't have energy for that. That doesn't work in my life. Fine. It's free content on a free platform. I can't help you. If you don't want to help yourself, And if you don't want to take the time, this is your health we're talking about, not mine, yours. So if you don't want to take the time to go back 2 posts, to do some reading, to do some looking up, there's literally nothing I can do. Literally nothing I can do about that. I'm not the platform for you. I'd suggest you find somebody else. The people who are desperate, though, I have a whole different compassion for, because I know they're trying to find help. They're trying to seek a practitioner. They're trying to get answers. They feel like crap, and they don't have any other choice but to go into the Instagram comments and DMs and ask, because they're not getting the answers elsewhere. You and I, living in the functional world, it's sometimes blinders on of like, it's functional medicine's everywhere. And then I talk to my non-functional friends, my parents, my stepkids, and I'm like, oh, you have no idea. Like okay, that's right. This is the world I do 24/7, but it's not the world you have very much access to at all. So I routinely try to remember that. I don't always remember that, but I try.
Well, yeah. I mean, I shamelessly admit I have built my little functional world bubble, and I really like my little functional world bubble.
Right.
But this is also, where, the light side of social media, it gives us the ability to share a lot of, good, dense, empowering information, and we're able to, potentially reach and help a lot of people that way. But, I previously I have a lot of free guides, and one of the ones, which that kills me when people are nagging at me, and I don't have tolerance. I will just delete the comment and block people. I just don't care. I just can't.
Yeah.
Energy vampires.
Yeah.
But, because it's like, if you're nagging at me, when literally it's like, there's a link to an entire library of free content if you just used my LinkedIn profile, but so there's that kind of stuff. But one of the free guides that I made, that was like, I created top 10 physiological and top 10 psychological, reasons or contributors to, mental health dysfunction. And in the psychological, it was not one of my more popular guides, but in the psychological, I listed victim mentality, to your point, right? Like, there's so much to be, said about that, and that kind of opens up the door for like neuroplasticity and stuff. But it's like, it's remarkable where you see people like David Goggins is a cool example. What a badass that dude. What a savage. That guy, like, people that have actually had a hard life, people that have experienced some shit, they're often some of the most, assuming they made it through and they survived and they transcended and they overcame, SIRS school, survive, evade, resist, escape sort of thing. Assuming they made it, they are some of the wisest, most mature, most humble, most resilient individuals. But then, so many people, and I'm, this is a podcast, it's not directed at anybody, but so many people, they get so triggered easily, and it's like they're choosing to drown in 2 feet of water. And it's like, if you just stood up instead, throwing that fit, just that victim mentality. And, so that's where that ego work and, inner child work, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
How could you possibly ever heal and work through all these layers when, you're griping on an Instagram comment.
Right.
So I'm glad you mentioned the victim stuff.
Yeah, and it's definitely, I think, hard for a lot of people to see. But as and I don't know about outsider, but is the person running the Instagram account and having seen patients for years and years, I can, in the comment or in the DM or whatever it is, I'm like, oh, you're not ready yet. You're still, you don't actually want to change. You say you do, but it's pretty obvious as somebody who's seen patients for years around hormone stuff, you don't actually want to change. So that's fine. I'm not your platform, and I'm going to put all my attention to the people who want to learn and are excited and are, baby steps to reach their goals. That's what I'm here for.
Absolutely. Well, I know your time is extremely valuable, and as much as I wish I could keep you all day, but I heard the word on the street is you're talking about mitochondria and hormones at an upcoming conference.
I am. Yes. So the mighty mitochondria. We all learned in school our mitochondria are cellular powerhouses because they make ATP. But the mitochondria is really where the magic starts for all your hormone production as well. And what's so interesting is I was talking about mitochondria on Instagram, and I had a well-meaning gentleman write in the comments publicly and say, Dr. Jones, it disappoints me that you've gotten caught up in the mitochondria bandwagon when I think you should stick to like the adrenal cells themselves. And I was like, oh, it's the mitochondria in the adrenal cells that make the hormone. It's the mitochondria in the ovarian cells that make the hormones. It's the mitochondria in the testicular cells that make the hormones. In the cells. It's not a bandwagon. It's literally physiology of how it works. So, when you make a hormone, you have your first step, believe it, is this thing called STAR, and STAR binds to cholesterol. That's the first step, and you magically transforms into pregnenolone, and all of that happens in the mitochondria of the cell you're going to make the hormone. Pregnenolone then leaves the mitochondria and goes next door to the endoplasmic reticulum, and that's where you make progesterone or testosterone or estrogen. But if you're cortisol, you actually go over to make pregnenolone, progesterone, and then what's called 11-deoxycortisol, and then you come back into the mitochondria and become cortisol. So this is important to know if you are struggling to make your hormones, any of them, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, cortisol, that the production starts in the mitochondria. And if you're a cortisol, it starts and it stops there, and then it gets released. So our mitochondria are, they're divas, they're fragile little beings, and they don't like a lot of stuff in life. And like us humans, they're like the canary in the coal mine. They don't like toxins, and they don't like mold, and they don't like stress, and they don't like lack of sunshine. They love sunshine, and they don't like all these things. And so it's important that we get our mitochondria healthy, quite honestly, so that we can make proper hormones inside them. Now, mitochondria do a whole host of other things. I'm just zeroing in on the hormone production. So that's what my webinar is on, is how we work specifically right in the little mighty mitochondria so that we have healthy cortisol, we have healthy testosterone, we have healthy estrogen and progesterone.
This sounds like a pretty gangster presentation.
And the cool thing is your mitochondria, I mean, they're divas, right? They're and I say diva because we get them from our mother's side, way predominantly. There's a very rare occasion, it's paternal, but it's maternal. But they react well to things like red and near infrared light therapy. They react well to deep breathing exercises. They react well to exercise such as weightlifting. They react well to cold. Now I mentioned cold earlier, but cold does two things for the mitochondria. Cold, like cold showers, cold plunges, what have you, it builds resiliency, but it also activates. We have a lot of mitochondria in our brown fat, and mitochondria make energy, and they also make heat, thermogenesis. And so the act of shivering activates our mitochondria. So when you shiver, it does help. That means your mitochondria have turned on, and they're doing their little job. So cold can help with two different ways. And so it's sunshine. I said sunshine, red and near infrared. So and then there's a whole host of nutrients that help the mitochondria and eliminating the toxins. So it's a lot of things we've already talked about when it comes to hormones and mental health and what have you from a very high level perspective, but from a very, 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 very microscopic, tiny level perspective, that's what the mitochondria like, and it's what they want. You actually have, you have a receptor in your mitochondria that's a photoreceptor. So red, near infrared, sunlight. That's what it activates. The ray of light actually activates this receptor and helps. I think that's the coolest thing. Proper oxygenation is important for our mitochondria. It needs oxygen. I mean, everything in our body needs oxygen, but the mitochondria really do. So deep breathing exercises Who knew? Don't correct your sleep apnea. Don't breathe through your mouth. Check yourself if you're snoring. These things. Right? Again, free, cheap, and easy, but it can make a huge difference. Mouth taping. I've had more people get into mouth taping. If you don't know what mouth taping is, look it up. And they're like, oh my gosh, I have so much energy in the morning now. I sleep so much better. I had no idea that being a mouth breather was screwing me up. Like, I know. And their mouth tape is cheap.
It's amazing.
So that's what my lecture is about. And then to go deep into some of the nutrients that are important, some of the B vitamins, CoQ10, some of the, iron. Your mitochondria need iron, so all the women who are iron deficient, iron anemic, can cause a problem.
So cool. I love it.
I know.
And it's that the nature pointing us back to science, like, the science pointing us back to nature of, because it's like, when I hear like, oh, heat shock proteins or cold shock, all these cool things. And it's like, so, what becomes the takeaway of like, it seems like the meat suit wants to be exposed to the natural elements.
Right.
And maybe there's something to, be said for that. Again, it's just like, we got to find a modernized way to live our more primal roots, primal
right.
way of living. But that is the beautiful thing about functional medicine, biohacking is, we get into all these technical sciences, and it's like, oh, actually, I don't need to necessarily take 50 supplements all the time. Like, I can, tape my spouse's mouth shut.
But for science.
Yeah.
Dave, I'm helping your oxygen. I'm helping your mitochondria. It's really, promise.
And then your husband's like,
yeah, I
know. I love it. Well,
yes.
I am planning on being front row for ANP. And
man, I hope it's live. I'll be honest, people.
Yeah,
I hope
we'll
it's
see.
live. It's supposed to be in July in Phoenix, which sounds miserable to a lot of people. It'll be 120 degrees, and I don't care. I will be there. I'm so excited.
Oh, absolutely. It was like -10 here in Kansas for a couple of weeks, so I'm just like, 120? That sounds nice.
There's a pool. We'll be fine.
It does stuff for your
It
heat
helps
shock
resiliency,
proteins.
right? It's the heat shock protein. Totally. Yeah.
Mitogenesis.
Heat shock 70. Heat shock 70 is the better one. We want that one.
Science.
Yeah.
We did it for science. I hope it is in person, but either way, I'm planning on scurrying up there, kick it with you and Tina.
I love it.
Get Ryan to cook us a cool meal. He seems like quite the
apparently better than Tina.
what can he not do?
I know, right? I know.
I love them. But Carrie, this was such a pleasure and really an excuse for me to get to hang out with one of my favorite people. And we got spoiled there in 2019 because I felt like I was seeing you like every other month in 2019.
Yeah.
And now here we are. It's been a good full year since that cute IHS pick. So
yeah, it's been a long time. Long time. It's weird.
It's been a minute.
I won't even know what to do on an airplane anymore. So
yeah, I never know what to do anyways. I'm just making it up every day. But I truly can't wait to see you. And sorry that you've had a bummer day. I hope this made it a little bit.
Oh, 100%. Are you kidding? I love talking with you all the time. Glad to see your face, and hopefully I'll see you in July.
Absolutely. I'm always here. Send you a lot of love and just hit me up anytime.
I appreciate that.
I've got you, boo.
You're the best.
All right, Carrie, I'll let you get back to your day, but
all right,
hopefully see you soon.
All right, thanks.
All right, bye.